Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, we are now into round two of the playoffs, and we are seeing some fantastic basketball. Last night was a lot of fun, not just because the Lakers won. Obviously, that does help with my enjoyment of the evening. There's no question. But still, there was some fantastic matchups that we saw last night. Knicks and Heat, Lakers and Warriors. That was a blast. We're seeing some really good games here in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, who would have thought Nuggets Suns would be like the least competitive of the
Right?
four so far, right? Like it doesn't really seem that that's how it should be. I now chime in Nuggets fans like we knew, we've been trying to tell you, like we're actually good. But yeah, I mean, shout out to them for showing up and doing their thing. And we're gonna get into it a little bit later, but
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul hurt, we'll see. But yeah, that Warriors Kings game or Warriors game. See, I'm still in the first round. Warriors Lakers game last night, unbelievable, man. They Lakers made they made all the big plays that they needed to make at the end of the game, and I think all the worry of like are they going to wear out and all that stuff, at least for game one, they held up at the end. I admittedly not the world's biggest Dennis Schroeder fan, but he was awesome. Really did. I thought he did a nice job at least sticking with Steph Curry through stuff. I said that when we talked about it previous, that I thought he might have been their best defensive option just because he can kind of get skinny around screens and he's probably the best chaser that they have on the roster. But getting himself to the line, and then what a monster AD game. Like just absolutely dominant, both ends of the floor too. I know Kevon Looney got 23 rebounds, or something like that.
Yeah.
But Davis just wasn't going to be denied. So that's I know they won the title with them, so the trade's already a win, but that's what you traded for him for, right? Is like those games. And that's why you gave up, that monster package to get them. So already, that trade's a win, but just one more, feather in that cap of, what a great job by him.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. I had people I saw this discussion on Twitter saying that was a Shaquille O'Neal level game.
Yeah.
And it really was. I mean, he just had a monstrous impact everywhere on the floor. That the rotations that he was making defensively were
Big time.
unbelievable. I mean, stuff that doesn't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. I mean, getting out to the 3-point line to close out on shooters and things, it was absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean, look, it's such an interesting styles clash, right? The Warriors took half their shots were threes. They took just a ton, I think 53 threes on the night, compared to the Lakers, who didn't take very many threes, but did all their work in the paint at the free throw line. So there was this huge discrepancy in terms of made threes from the Warriors, big discrepancy in favor of points in the paint and free throw lines, free throw attempts for the Lakers. And it's just this interesting styles clash that we're going to see play out in this series. So this was an exciting one, and I think a really good start to what's going to be a great series. The Warriors are not worried, by the way. They're not worried. They've gone down 0-1 in series before, and they're they do this, right? So they're not concerned. They've been in this situation, and I think this is going to be, man, this series is going to be great because both of those teams played extremely well last night.
Yeah, and I think both of them come out with, here's what we could do better, right? Like LeBron, just a very bad shooting night for him. Just couldn't get the jumper to fall. I think the Warriors gotta feel like we could tighten up that interior defense a little bit. And I think, from their side, it's, all right, Klay Thompson, probably not going to shoot 9 of 25 from the floor again. Steph was 10 of 24. You probably feel like, all right, those guys will come back around a little bit with some of their shooting. So, yeah, I think all around both teams are coming out of it saying, all right, we're okay. Like we're good, as you said, the Warriors, big winner. This guy right here, 9 p.m. tip time for game 2. Let's go. Like, I am fired up about that, man. These games that run until like 12:30 or 1, like I feel like it's good that they're so close and intense because like it keeps you like engaged and going. Because that when the Lakers rolled over the Grizzlies by I don't know, 40 or whatever they were up at one point in that game or whatever it was, like I was like barely could keep my eyes open because it was like, and then I finally gave up. I'm like, I'm out, I'm going to bed. But it's yeah, man, it's just unbelievable with this game. I'm super excited, and and the other series have been good too. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know what you got queued up for us next, but I'm excited to get into it.
I just wanted to say I give a ton of credit to the Miami Heat for what it looked like they were going to win that game for a while last night, and that was just, I mean, and no Jimmy Butler, who's been phenomenal. I'm like, oh my God, this Heat, they lose Jimmy Butler and they just keep executing. They
Yeah.
just keep getting it done. And look, the Knicks had to have that game, but Miami looked so good the way they were just, hey, we don't have Jimmy. All right, next guy's gonna step up here. Gabe Vincent's gonna start doing stuff for us. That was so
Looked like Caleb
impressive, and I thought
Martin
they were
for a
gonna pull
little
it
bit.
off. Yeah, and
Like
Caleb
this,
Martin,
like, is this
absolutely.
going to be the Caleb Martin game? And
Yep.
it's funny, I did not get to see this game live because we had a prior commitment, so I was kind of following through like the tweets and stuff, and there was a point where the Heat were up, and everybody like I could just see the Knicks, like people that I have on my Twitter timeline were like, forget it, this Knicks team's done if they can't beat the Heat without Jimmy Butler, and then all of a sudden it's like the Heat people were like, we can't make a shot anymore, what's going
Mhm.
on? And just unbelievable. I will say, one thing, just kind of bigger picture, as we like to do here on Front Office Show. Gabe Vincent making himself some money in
Yeah.
this playoff run. He's there's a chance he gets priced out in Miami unless they can really make some moves. Because I mean, there's just a lot of guys that are already been paid. And Max Struess, it's going to be kind of interesting if they're forced to choose between the two. Do you choose Struess, and where you like, does it turn into another Duncan Robinson? Do you
Right.
go Gabe Vincent and say, all right, maybe we got a Kyle Lowry trade as the move? Like, I'm really, really curious to see how that comes together, because these are like the beginning stages of the super tax implications for a handful of these teams. Of it's like, well, we can't pay everybody, right, for
Mhm.
some of these teams, or like we can't pay everybody because we're not the Warriors with all the pieces in place already. Like, and we're just, moves around the edges are okay. A lot of these teams are, no, we still need to add. And if we pay everybody, we're not going to be able to
We
add
can't add.
the way we want to. And that's going to be a little bit of a challenge there. I was, it just to shout out my employer Spot Track. I was talking with them today on the podcast over there, and one of the things we talked about, this is an issue for the Milwaukee Bucks, where like if you pay everybody, you can't add, and they also can't add through the draft because they don't own all their picks. They still owe picks to the Pelicans and pick swaps and things like that. So it's really a weird spot to be in for some of these teams. And I think we're going to see this summer is, even if the super tax isn't fully implemented for a couple of years, you're going to start feeling the impact of it out there for a handful of these teams. So just something kind of wanted to throw in on the Heat side, because it's been there, and we're probably not going to get any Heat off-season stuff for a while yet, it looks like.
Yeah, no, that's definitely good to note. Good to note there, Keith. Okay, let's kick things off. The MVP has been crowned.
Yeah. The
Joel Embiid.
MVP.
Yeah, MVP. Were you surprised? Like he won by a pretty wide margin. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he won by a lot.
Yeah, it was.
It
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't close between him and Jokic in terms of the vote. Did that surprise you at all that it wasn't closer when the final tally was announced?
A little bit. I thought Embiid was going to win, and I didn't think necessarily the votes that didn't go to him would go to Jokic. I thought they might go to Giannis. So I
Mm,
thought you might have kind of Embiid wins with, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me either, but Embiid wins with like 60% of the vote, and then it's like 50, the other 40% is split like 50-50 between Jokic and Giannis. And maybe that is kind of how it happened, but he did win by a good margin. Basically, everybody had him either number one or number two on most ballots. Very, very deserving MVP. I have no issue with this at all. I would not have an issue if somebody voted Jokic. Giannis is just more of, it didn't feel like he played as many games, and
mhm.
I know somebody will say, well, Embiid missed games too, so that's fair. But I wouldn't have a huge issue if it was like, oh my gosh, Giannis got this groundswell of support with it. The only thing that jumped out as super weird to me, one voter did not have Jokic on his ballot at all. Like, how does that happen? And I wish I would like to know who it was, because I would like to really find out, like, all right, who was it that like you didn't have? And maybe it's something that will come out eventually. I've not seen it as of yet, but like, how do you not have him on your ballot at all? Like that's just insane to me.
So I'll caution this. So this happened a few years ago. I think it was Anthony Davis's first year with the Lakers, and he got completely left off of somebody's All NBA ballot. And that question was thrown out. Who did this? Who didn't even like how ridiculous is this that he didn't even wind up on any of the all NBA teams? And then when it eventually came out, who it was, like that person just got like torn to shreds.
Sure.
and they said, "Hey, like I made a mistake. Like it was not on purpose. I messed up. I didn't have him on there." And look, if you have a ballot, you shouldn't make those kinds of mistakes. You can say that, but still, like it didn't wind up making a difference in terms of the overall all vote. I think it's fair to question certainly where does why would Jokic not be on somebody's like that's I think more egregious even, right? Because he's either one or two, or I mean at worst three, right? So he should be on somebody's ballot, but you sometimes you get the angry mob goes after somebody like how could you
Yeah, and
not
they
put
get a
this
little
person
too
on there, and
much.
yeah, right. And so it's just it reminds me of that situation from a few years ago that got kind of messy to where you felt bad like because the person was like, look, I'm really sorry, I just made a mistake, and it happens.
Yeah, and that's to your point, like that you probably shouldn't, right? And if I ever have a ballot, like I know I'm going to check it 9 billion times before I
Absolutely.
hit submit, right? Like just because of being terrified of things like that. But yeah, I'm just curious, and if the answer is I made a mistake, I mean, it did. It's not like it made a difference. Like it really didn't. It didn't make a big difference. It kind of jumps off the page as you start adding it up, and it's like, wait, what? Because
Right.
part of it where it jumped out was it was like somebody gave Jason Tatum a third place vote. Okay, that's interesting. And
So
then you
who
look at
did
it, it's like,
not get into the
wait,
top three then?
Jokic
Right.
didn't get one. Like that's a little weird. But yeah, I mean, just bring it back around to Embiid. I mean, he was awesome this year. He's absolutely awesome. Awesome offensively, awesome defensively. He's great on the boards, and I this maybe isn't a super popular opinion, especially among Celtics fans in the middle of a playoff series. I like Joel Embiid. I think he's really funny. Like I like watching him play. I could do without some of the flopping stuff, but that's I mean that's
Yeah.
90% of the superstars do foul baiting stuff, and
He
he
does
goes
take
goes
it to a
far with it.
totally different
Yeah,
level.
and there's
He's
times when it's like, dude, the 150-pound guard like sent you into the second
right.
row of the seats, man. You weigh almost 300 pounds. Like, what are we doing here? But for the most part, it's one of those things where I guess I kind of turn a blind eye to it because I just kind
Mm.
of like watching him play. Like he feels the closest to me in the NBA to like prime Patrick Ewing when Ewing was dominant. And like it was like Ewing was an MVP candidate. And Ewing would probably have won an MVP if he wasn't playing at the same time as Jordan, Barkley, Olajuwon, and Robinson.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he had years where it's like, holy crap, this guy is so good, but it's just like you're not there. I mean, go look at the all NBA teams in like the late 80s
God,
and
what
like
an age for
the mid
centers that
90s.
was.
Yeah, right. It was like, I mean, and then of course, just when it's like, all right, we've got the three, right? Olajuwon, Robinson, and Ewing are gonna battle, then Shaq shows
Then
up in
Shaq comes
'92,
along.
and
I mean,
it's like,
Alonzo
well,
Mourning was getting
now
into
what do
the
we do?
mix, and I
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Patrick Ewing was awesome, and the reason why I compare Embiid is like he could be that ferocious defender and rebounder, and he's got the jump shot. Like Ewing had such a good jumper at a time when bigs, Olajuwon had a little bit of a jumper, but he was more go to work on you in the post and hit the dream shake and all that stuff. Robinson developed his face up jumper later in his career, but Ewing had it from day one. Like he would, take that back down. It was like a 15 to 20 footer with
Mhm.
regularity and make it. So I just, a little bit of love for my guy, Patrick Ewing. He was one of my favorites back in the day.
So to go back to the games played piece, Jokic played 69 games,
Mm-hmm.
Embiid played 66, Giannis played 63. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, by next year's rules, assuming that goes into effect this summer, Giannis would not be eligible to win MVP unless they went and they did, hey, he had injuries and like I know they're giving themselves a little leeway in that, but now the number is 65. You have to play 65 games to be eligible for these awards.
Yeah. Yeah. So that will be, then it's, then it becomes like the whole, there's like 9,000 conditions on the
Yeah.
games played, thresholds, like would that factor in and stuff. But yeah, and I think Embiid, Jokic, Giannis being the top three in that order feels right to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a big problem with it. So
No.
I'm okay with that.
All right. Monty McNair got executive of the year, and rightfully so. I mean, the Kings, they had a tremendous, tremendous season. Obviously, didn't end quite the way that they would wanted to, but you look at everything that happened, and I don't know. You could tell me if you know this, Keith. So when you get an executive of the year award, it's kind of like it's a reflection on the front office itself. Are business decisions put into that? Because if light the beam is in any kind of factor here, like that just cements it. Like it had to be Monty
Sure.
McNair. So of course he wins this.
Yeah, yeah, if they are, maybe that was the deciding factor. I think it's supposed to be about basketball and the
Yeah.
decisions you made roster building. So I think that's what it is. And just to be clear on this is not voted on by the media. This is voted on by the NBA executives, and they do not make the results public. It's tough. There's a guy in Celtics Twitter, Ryan Bernardoni, who he always says every single year when this award comes out, he's like, annual reminder, executive of the year is a weird award because sometimes the best moves, we don't know the results of them for years to come.
Mhm.
And it is kind of true, right? So, but if you take it in the face of, all right, Monty McNair made the Kevin Herter trade. He, got Malik Monk, built out the roster around Sabonis and Fox, and got them into the playoffs for the first time in almost 2 decades. Like I can't argue with that. Like
No.
good on him, right?
Yeah.
Good results. But I do like that kind of clarification of there's sometimes we're not going to know the Rudy Gobert trade. We're not going to
Sure.
know the end result of that trade for years, because of the amount of picks the Jazz have coming their way. Same thing with the Donovan Mitchell trade. Like, it's going to be a long time before that story is fully written. But it's a 1-year award for right now, so we get it.
Right. Right. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the Suns. Chris Paul, he's going to be out at least games 3 through 5 with this groin injury that we saw him suffer in game 2. It's a 2-0 Denver lead in the series. Is Chris Paul's season over?
I think so. Because I'm not convinced he comes back in this round, and I think they're going to lose the series now. I picked the Suns to win the series. I thought that their star power would get them through, but I mean the Nuggets, they kind of look like the team on a mission of like, hey, we're good. Like, did y'all forget? We're actually good. It's cute you spend all this time on all these other teams. We were the 1 seed, right? Like let's go. I mean, and they've so far held up. I think the Suns can still make it a competitive series. Maybe get it to 6 games, maybe even a 7th game. But it's going to take Durant and Booker. It's going to have to be monsters because it's going to have to be campaign now, and that's the challenge. Yeah, their depth is just so bad. And again, as we talk about the whole super tax stuff, this is where we got to get this figured out. It's enough. People are asking me, if you're the Suns, do you waive Chris Paul after the year? Because his contract is Garrett, you can save $15 million off of his contract. Now, it's not going to get you in the cap space range because you still got Durant, Ayton, and Booker on max deals. But it is one of those things where it's like, it's just, how do you get there, right? Like my guess is he probably is back on his full contract, and you're gonna run it back and hope you can flesh out the depth around those guys enough. But man, they're in rough shape because they just when you're built around 4 guys and one of the 4 goes down, right? You might have a little bit of experience with being a
Just
top
a little
roster, and one goes down. What happens? Like now, it's happened to the Suns.
And then they are adding a G League team. So what's the count at now? Who does not have a G League team at this point?
They are it because the Portland Trailblazers announced they will have a G League team. It sounds like Portland will have theirs next year. Suns are trying for next year. Matt Ishbia, the new Suns owner, said in an interview, it was mostly about the process of buying the Suns and then the whole TV stuff that we talked about. They're going to put their games on over the air TV instead of cable, and then they'll have a streaming service. Also, tucked in another article, just as an aside, Clippers and Knicks are launching a streaming only thing that their fans can buy too, really targeted for non-local fans that want to buy their games. So interesting. I'm very, very curious just to see where all this goes.
And how does that work with League Pass? That's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to find out, right? My guess is the NBA still is like, hey, we still have League Pass, and you're still going to have to make them available through there too.
Yeah.
But I think you say it Vorkunov from The Athletic. He wrote a very good
that was a great piece
about where everything's going with the TV stuff. We won't spend a lot of time on it here today, but just really interesting about how like streaming is going to be a thing, but how Turner and ESPN are like really like, we got to keep the NBA to some extent, even if they've sent other messages of we'll see how it goes.
Right.
But back to the Suns and the G League. So Matt Ishbia said, we're trying for this year, but if not this year, then next year they'll have a team. And he also said it's not going to be a team that's 7 states away. It'll be local. And I think I think where we're going to progress to is I'm going to say within probably 4 or 5 years, every single team G League team will be within a drive, like a
It should be.
drivable distance. Yeah, and that is how it should be, right? Because then you can just get that much more use out of the team, and the guys really feel like they're more part of things. You've got the 3 2 ways now, and the new CBA coming in starting with next season, so that's another thing to strengthen the G League. So yeah, we're gonna get there, and I bet when they bring in the expansion teams, I bet that's a thing. I bet it is. You
Mhm.
will like if you're coming in, you will have a G League team. Like you're
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to come in without one. So yeah, all good news on that front. Like let's keep beefing up the G League and make it a real viable thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's been great for the league, and it just continues to get better and better. All right, let's wrap up with this. The Rockets reportedly interested in Khris Middleton. I mean, already on the radar for James. Like, if the Rockets suddenly get James Harden and Khris Middleton, I don't know if they can do that. They have enough room to get both.
Yeah, it'd be
That'd be
someone's
tight.
having to take a pretty hefty pay cut. Like they've got a ton of cap flexibility, but it's not quite that much.
So the Rockets are interested in Khris Middleton, but again, that just speaks to okay, they've got the new head coach and they've got Udoka coming on. I don't think they are dead set in any way on we're going to continue to rebuild around the kids right now. I think that they are looking at their options. That doesn't mean they won't. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll just say, hey,
Sure.
we're just going to keep building through the draft and off we go. But I think they're really going to look at their options here to go out there after some people. Now, I'll also say this: we always talk about where is this coming from, right? Like, would if you're Khris Middleton right now, wouldn't you want it to be out there that, hey, this team, this big scary team out there that's got all this
Yeah.
cap space just might have a ton of interest in me. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. The Rockets being one of the teams that have all the cap space right now, they're going to get floated in a lot of rumors, not just because I think they really are going to be interested in a lot of players, but also because agents are going to use them as, hey, we could land with the Rockets. They could pay us. You better pay us because they might, that type of stuff might go on.
Yeah, I mean, this is where this all starts, right? And his season is now over. So you're going to start when guys' seasons are over, you're going to start to hear more about these things about, players, declining an option and these teams are lining up for him. I mean, we started hearing it's a different guy, but we started hearing Fred VanVleet to Orlando stuff before the trade deadline, right? Like it's just once the season ends, you're going to start hearing more and more and more of these things. So I think the Rockets hiring of Ime Udoka, I probably already said this on the show, but it's worth repeating, I think at least, is they gave themselves optionality because he can either coach a young team and help grow them and give them the discipline that they obviously lacked under Steven Silas and didn't grow into what they hoped quickly enough. But he can also clearly coach a veteran team and get them over the hump too. So I think what you did was you hired a coach where it doesn't lock you into one roster strategy, right? If you went with a first time, brand new, up and coming guy that like everybody's kind of like, yeah, his best thing
Right.
is he develops young players, you're probably locked in a little bit more to, all right, we're going to stay with the kids and build this up. Or if you want with a, I don't know, you ran back Mike D'Antoni. It's like, well, he's not coming back to coach a bunch of 22-year-olds into
Yeah.
growing them, right? So they gave themselves that optionality and they're going to get it figured out. So I'm very, very interested in the Rockets offseason. I mean, a lot of it's going to determine too what happens in the lottery, right? You move up to one and get Wembanyama. I mean, that changes everything for you but it's funny. Does it change it to, all right, let's go get James Harden, let's go? Or does it change it to, all right, now we can really be patient because we've got the guy now, right? Like, I'm not sure
Good
which way
question.
that goes.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. That'd be interesting to see. Now, again, we'll see ultimately who gets Wembanyama, but I think he's so talented that you really could go either way. Like you could
Yeah.
go, hey, we got the guy, we're
Yeah.
off and running. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go add pieces and we can potentially win right now. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. Man,
Just
I can only imagine like fans of lottery teams are going to be just
this year.
on pins and needles
Yeah.
on draft lottery day.
They take that break. What I forget if it's at the
Oh
fourth
yeah.
or third pick now. They're
In
going to take
between
that
4 and 3
commercial.
usually, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to take that commercial break. And like those teams that are like, you're going to be like down to bloody stumps of fingernails, right?
Oh, for
Because you're going
sure.
to shoot them all off, like just praying you don't. Because you don't want to see your name. Right.
No.
Like it's like, don't show me my team. Don't show me my team. And nothing I love more. And I built because of me, of course, this comes to no surprise. I built a spreadsheet is how I track this. And like when I do it, like I move teams over and it's like, all right, here's the chalk order, right? Like if everything went in order. And then the first time it's like, uh-oh, like the 11th team is not where they should be. Like then it's like, oh boy. And then you start thinking,
somebody moved.
oh man, somebody and what I start thinking about too is somebody got pushed back, right? Like somebody got pushed back. And yeah, it's the draft lottery it's one of those things where it's like it's just one of those dumb, silly events that like you can just look like an hour after and see what the draft order is, but it's like I gotta watch this live. Like I gotta experience it live. Like I'll never forget that high of like, holy crap, the Celtics got the number 1 pick the year that they ultimately traded out of it. But the year they got it, I was like, oh my god, they didn't come up on the board. Like I cannot believe this. Like they got the number 1 pick. Like it's just such a wild like feeling of elation. So yeah. Hey, one thing we did kind of skip with the Embiid stuff, and maybe this will be moved by the time a lot of people hear it. Maybe coming back for game 2. Like let's see. Like it sounds like it's not. There was reporting this morning, and just so everybody knows, we're recording this Wednesday morning. Shams Charania said Embiid told his teammates at an MVP celebration of, hey, I'm back. Like I'll be back. And then I think he believes said that has him on track to play in game 2 against the Celtics. Then there was a little bit out of shoot around today where it's like, maybe throwing cold water. Could be some gamesmanship. We'll see. But it sounds like if nothing else, I would expect he's probably back for game 3 in Philadelphia. But it sounds like he's closer than maybe what it was said, or maybe he's not close at all. And they're all just playing games. Who knows?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It could be they'll probably do the whole, well, he's a game time decision now type thing.
That's going to be my guess. Yeah. Somebody will, and whether he's out there, early enough for people to see him get his pregame workout in, or what is it? I will say the last time we saw him, and sometimes these post practice, post shoot around videos you're seeing the very tail end of it. But all we saw him doing was some very light standstill shooting. And it was like light standstill shooting where he wasn't really landing on the right leg after he took, very, soft jump shots. So we're going to see, with this, but yeah, I think like, I don't know, man, the Celtics need to play better, whether he plays or not. They, please defend somebody like that. That'd be, I know it's a novel approach here in the second round of the playoffs, like play some defense, but yeah, it's we'll see. But I almost feel like if he's back, let me rephrase this. I know if he's back, they'll be more focused because they said it themselves. They were like, when we found out he didn't play, we relaxed. Like, which is,
you can't do that.
I don't want to end the podcast.
It's easier said than done, but it's what happens.
Yeah, I don't want to end the podcast with me going on an angry rant and all that stuff because I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling positive. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. So let's do it.
All right. Well, let's end it on that then. I appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel, as well as the
Thanks
podcast
for all the well wishes. Sorry to everybody. Sorry to interrupt you. That told us both to feel better. Like that was very sweet.
Appreciate that.
Kind. And I know a couple people sent notes on Twitter. A couple people sent notes through email. Like really appreciate it.
For sure. Yep. On the mend. That's for sure. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.